So, here's what we've learned today. The left and the right differ in their views on specific political issues because they differ in their basic psychologies, the reasons behind the reasons. So, if you want to change a person's attitude on specific political issues, how would you do it? You would need to change their underlying psychology. Now, this is not quite as dramatic as it may seem. Professor John Duckett and Kirsten Fisher of the University of Auckland, New Zealand, have found one way to do this. They ran a study which looks very much like this.
We'll begin with a short questionnaire that will ask you to answer some general demographic questions about yourselves.
Students were brought to a lab room and asked to fill out a survey. The survey began with general demographic questions such as age, gender, and year in college. Only one item in this initial information was of real interest. Participants were asked to indicate their general political orientation. After participants had indicated their political orientation, the experimenter asked them to listen to a description of a scenario and to imagine themselves in that scenario, to imagine it actually happening to them.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to the next task. In this task, I want you to use your imagination. I have a description recorded on this computer. Please listen to the description and put yourself in the situation described. If the events were happening to you, what would you see, what would you feel, and what would you do? After I play the description, I will ask you to fill out some more questionnaires. For the moment, though, just listen to the description.
For some participants, the scenario described a threatening future in which things were very bleak in their country. For other participants, the scenario was much rosier. These participants were asked to imagine that the economy was strong and growing.
Okay, that was the description.
What's the point of having participants listen to these different scenarios? The researchers were hoping to get a temporary shift in the participants' view of the world, to get participants to experience the world as more threatening or more secure. Research has shown that individuals on the right are more likely than those on the left to view the social world in threatening terms. They are more likely, for example, to agree with statements such as, "Every year there are fewer and fewer truly respectable people and more persons with no morals at all who threaten everyone else." Individuals on the left tend to view the social world as safe and secure. They are more likely to agree with statements such as, "My knowledge and experience tells me that the social world we live in is basically a safe, stable, and secure place in which most people are fundamentally good." But what if we could lead participants, regardless of their initial political orientation, to imagine a bleak future and to experience the world as threatening? Then we might lead them to adopt a more right-wing orientation and to endorse more right-wing positions. What if we could lead participants to imagine a rosier future and to experience the world as safe and secure? Then we might lead them to adopt a more left-wing orientation and to endorse more left-wing positions. To test this hypothesis, Duckett and Fisher asked participants to complete another survey.
Now I'm going to ask your opinion on several social issues. But as you indicate your answer, I would like you to answer them as if you were living in the future United States that you just heard described. Now, in some cases, your answers may be different than if you imagined answering them in the present. Other answers may be the same. So please read each item carefully and select your answers. Just try to give your opinion from the perspective of living in this future United States.
This survey contained a number of politically relevant items. Some items reflected a view of the world as hostile or benign. For example, every day as society becomes more lawless, a person's chances of being robbed, assaulted, and even murdered go up and up. Other items reflected political issues on which the left and right tended to differ in predictable ways. For example, same-sex marriage, gun control, and stem cell research. The question was whether listening to the threatening or benign scenarios shifted participants toward the right or the left. The answer is yes, it did. Participants who had imagined a bleak future viewed their current world in more threatening terms and adopted more right-wing values compared to participants who had imagined a more secure future. Although our attitudes towards specific political issues may be influenced by our underlying psychology, our psychology in turn may be influenced by a wide range of factors. For example, are things happening right now that lead you to feel that the world is more threatening or more benign? Do you believe you are in competition with other people or in cooperation with them? Did your parents provide you with strict rules when you were young, or did they allow you to direct your own behavior? All of these factors and more can affect your general psychological orientation and in turn affect your opinion on specific issues. So, when we hear people express political opinions different from our own, it may be useful to think it's not really them talking, it is their motivation talking, their background talking, their worldview talking. All of these and more are influencing our opinions. And when we argue back, it is not really us arguing back, it is our motivations, our backgrounds, and our worldviews talking. If we keep that in mind, then we may still disagree with those on the other side, but at least we may have a better understanding of them and of ourselves. And maybe that's the best we can do. So, I hope you will excuse me while I express some of my personal goals, motivations, and experiences on some specific issues.